It's a beautiful May day at Red Robin Farm. I've hung the sheets out on the line. The breezes are nice. The air is cool. It's just right. Our lovely fig tree, which we've been cutting back so that we could actually get the fruit, is leafing out. Big parts of it are dead. As you can see, this big old stump in the middle has been dead for several years. And after our hard winter, some of these branches don't look like they're coming back. Yeah, that was pretty dead. But there's a lot of greenery here too, and it'll all be accessible when the fruit comes out, so that's good. I wanted to take you back to the vegetable garden today. Here's the herb garden that you're familiar with. This is the rest of our house lot on the east side of the house. The big, beautiful trees. The grass is so nice, and as you can hear, Adam is mowing today. He's been mowing for the last 2 days since it finally stopped raining. So we'll go back to the garden because things are growing so nicely. And we'll say hello to the dogs on the way. Good morning, Trixie. Good morning, baby. No. Adam is moving those big black barrels for me. They were on the front porch for the winter, but now we're trying to clear out the front porch. We've been really busy lately with our college daughter coming home for a little bit and taking off for her summer, and our older daughter is getting married in 2.5 weeks, and so there's a lot of ongoing wedding preparation happening. There's the burn pile right there. The rest of the property is really looking so pretty. I look at all that land out there and I think, that's a lot of property. What in the world should we do with it? Seems like such a waste just to have it sit there. Adam is thinking of Christmas trees. I keep on thinking of all the people who need places to live. And we have all that ground. I wish there was something we could do so people could have a place to live, but we don't have any way to set it up for domestic use with water and sewage and stuff. That's way more money than we could ever have. So just thoughts that rumble around in my brain. There's the compost pile that's the dogs turn it over and it reduces so much. In the barn. Hey Ned. Ned's had some trouble with his eye lately, but it seems to be getting better. He had something called some little puppy mange that is cyclical and they get rid of it themselves. It's not dangerous. But then he got, I think, some kind of a bee sting on the top of his eye, and it swelled up. So he's still recovering. Okay, well, let's get into the garden, and I'll just show you from one end to the other what's happening. I know not everybody likes vegetable garden updates, but really this is kind of for me so that I can go back and remember on May the 21st, 2018, where things were in the garden and how far along they were. So let's start here. This is some basil that I started from seed. It's probably been about a couple of weeks along, and I just put it in this bed. I had to clear this bed out for that. You can see there's a lot of onions on this end of the world. This one is so tall. Some of them are beginning to dry, and the stems get this interesting bumpy quality. And then finally, as you see here, there's more of that bumpiness. They all fall over. But even then, the bulb is really not that big. So I'm going to leave those until the stems are quite yellow and dry. And this long row all the way down from here all the way down, this is all tomatoes with a little bit of horseradish in the middle, and the occasional collard, volunteer collard coming up. Right next to this basil here, we've got a little empty spot here. I might put some peppers there later. I need to find a pepper spot. Now if you look right there, you see that is a plantain. That's a nice, healthy, slightly dirty plantain. It's the only one I have found in the pasture and in the garden. Everything else is up by the house, so I'm trying to nurture along that plantain. Got some onions here that are flowering. Now these are much closer to being ready to dig out. I may do them soon. More onions. I just cleared out this bed. It was a mess. Well, if you look down here, you'll see what kind of mess it was. That's the mess it was. I have a little bit more to clear out here. But all of this here is going to be sunflowers. I'll get Adam to put some kind of a support in the middle. You can see where I've watered the seeds that I put in yesterday on the 20th. We tried sunflowers once before with no success, but we did a rather indifferent job, I think. These are all, the rest of this bed is all peas. I've had a lot of peas here. These are sugar snap peas. They've done very well once we got the rabbits out. That's a lovely pea. Some of them are big enough. I don't see any here. Most of them look like this. They're nice and flat. That's an edible hull. Honestly, any pea early enough is an edible hull, and any pea that's gone long enough is not. So, now here's one that would be perfect for, you see how fat that is? This will be perfect for splitting open and eating. But I do try to save them for the farmer's market. I've got peas in the freezer from last year. I should admit to you this terrible thing, which is that we love to grow things, and I enjoy preserving them and freezing them, but when it comes right down to eating them, we often forget. Don't ask me why. We do try. This is a huge collard plant. I know some of you are not familiar with collards. This is one of the couple of things that grow fabulously. Let me step across the bed here in this area. It's very tasty. I mean, I love to break off a little bit of these greens. It's quite good. It's not bitter. It's not nasty. It's a yummy flavor. It's got a little bit of a hot bite at the very end. So that was the collard. It's a big one. Adam has been cutting. You can imagine how far that would go feeding people. He's been cutting some pieces off. But that would go. It just keeps on going. And since it's by a post, we've just left it there. I think that's quite a good idea. That's a volunteer from when he planted collards 1 year. And I think we've had volunteer ones come up since that. That's probably a couple years ago. Here's another one. Doesn't look quite as big, but you can see it's got some pretty leaves. This one's going to be big too. It is right next to a tomato. I just put in 2 more tomatoes here. I haven't counted lately. I would say I probably have about 20 tomato plants now. That is a far cry from the, I forget, 150, 170 plants that I had my first year. I went way overboard. We do, I think, a decent job of weeding. There's a lovely woman I knew in West Virginia who I kind of wanted to be like. She was just one of the sweetest people. And she had a little farm in the mountains. And we went to visit her one time. I loved her house. I love her. And we were walking by her garden, which did look a little overgrown. And she laughed and said, "This is my weed garden." And I took her so seriously and adored her so much. I thought she had a serious new way of gardening. But of course she was joking and I didn't know it. All right, let me keep on going here. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. Down here, down here, I'm gonna eat the rest of my collard. These were radishes that volunteered, and I can't get Adam to eat my radishes, so I didn't try. And then here's the seed pods. I'll probably leave these here. They're pretty, they're kind of in the way, but there weren't that many of them. And I'll save the seeds and maybe we'll try again next year. He's picky about his radishes. Now this is so important. From here down to about right there. This is all baby's breath, gypsophila. Adam bought me 2 packets. And I prepared the soil and I sprinkled it in. And then when it germinated and came up with all the weeds around it, I had no idea which seed leaves were gypsophila and which were not. So I had to let everything come up. And then I tried really hard on the internet to find out what a young baby's breath looks like. Most of the photographs, of course, are this big white cloud. But, so I believe this is a gypsophila. This is a young one. These are getting longer. It looks more like what you would expect in a young gypsophila. I used to say gypsophilia, but I think it's gypsophila. And you can see the little flower buds coming. And then there's some down here that are blooming. Now, why am I growing in my garden all this gypsophila? I'm growing it for the wedding, of course, because you can never have enough baby's breath. You can never have too much baby's breath at a wedding. Now this, at the same time I put in the baby's breath, I put in some chamomile. I had a chamomile plant before that did really badly. It was too hot here. I had it in the herb garden up front, and it just died in the heat. It was exhausted. I'm wondering if I start it from seed, if it will do better. Now I need to weed this out. It's looking kind of weedy. But what I really want are the flowers from it, because I want to make tea from them. Now the rest of this bed was our wonderful green bed, although this is still some very nice dwarf kale. Now you would have to pick through here and get this type of leaf instead of the yellowing leaves. But that wouldn't be too hard to do if we wanted to have some kale. But like I said, we tend to eat other things. Our lettuce has not bolted yet. Now it looks like it might be trying to, but some of it's a little tall, but it has not bolted. That's perfectly good lettuce. I am astounded that with the heat we have had, it hasn't done that yet. This is some red Russian kale that I had not much success selling at the farmer's market. I think it's beautiful, but people thought it looked funny, I guess. So it's been sitting there. This was all spinach, and I will be harvesting seeds from this for planting next year. Although I must admit that the seeds I did that with this year did not do as well as the new seeds. So anyway, but I'm going to be cleaning this whole area out for peppers. I think this is where I want my peppers. And I have two. There's one, and there's a bigger one. That's my celery. And those just came from, I did those from celery stalks that we bought at the grocery store. We ate the celery. I kept the stump. I put it in water till it rooted. Put it in some, actually, then I think I brought it straight out here. And it seems to be surviving well, even with the heat. This is our water. Adam brings the water out on a trailer in this and buckets it up into the top of this. And then I have a somewhat drippy, but good water source here by the greenhouse. Okay. Let's keep on going. Our asparagus bed is quietly sleeping until next year. It's not quite mature enough for us to be picking it. Our strawberries, I think we just got too late. They're going to spread out. We don't know much about strawberries and have had limited success. I don't know if we'll get some in the fall or if we'll need to wait until next year for this whole bed to be full. It is sending out runners. This plant sent out this runner and then sent out this runner. And we've had some others that are starting to do that. So I'm hoping that by next year they'll come back and we'll have a bed full of strawberries. We will see. The strawberries have been coming out earlier and earlier. It's a little confusing to me. I'm used to strawberries being in June, and they're not anymore. Okay, this is the other compost pile that the dogs don't play on and turn over, and you see how it has gone way down. It used to be a mountain. It's reduced significantly, but still it doesn't decompose as fast as the other. This is our, I think will again this year be our sweet potato bed. We had great success with sweet potatoes last year. That's the other crop that does well in our county. This is the potato bed, white potatoes, and you see they're blooming. I do think I should look it up on my blog, my farm blog, which is redrobinfarm.com. But I think that this is much earlier than last year. And Adam says he's going to come and weed this soon. It does need to be weeded. The last bed here, and I do weed this, but it's hard to stay ahead of it. This is 3 rows of carrots. I've never grown carrots here before. I grew them, I think, in Iowa many years ago. But that's been 20 years ago. It's been over 20 years ago. And this is cucumbers. Now, I would prefer to have a hard trellis, a wire trellis for them. All we have here on this trellis, this is kind of where they ended up, are these strings which were for our tomatoes last year. So we will see. I think I'm going to try to get Adam to just run something between these posts, something a little harder, some kind of wire, cable, I don't know, for these cucumbers to latch onto and then climb all over. I don't think they need a ton. They don't need 2x4 welded wire or anything. That's a bit of overkill. All right, and then let me take you back to the greenhouse and I'll show you what I have left in there. Adam built me a bigger greenhouse because the first year I had it packed with, as I told you, 150 or so tomato plants, each in its own pot, and so many other things. And I have started a lot of herbs in there, and I've sold some this year. I would say, in the last 3 weeks that I have taken plants to the farmer's market, I've sold about $50 worth of plants, and a lot of those herbs. Here's a tomato in a pot that seems to be struggling along. And here's one of our tires that we had watermelons in last year. They did so badly. And this year I put gourds in there. We will see if the gourds come along. Adam's been mowing and weed eating, so this looks so much better. He's rolled up the sides of the greenhouse so that the air, there's lots of breeze and ventilation in here. The window's open. This side I'm really using for storage of junky stuff, and there's his weed eater. I have everything prepped for this weekend. Everything's been watered. I have 1 tarragon left, 2 basils left, 3 sage. I'm taking 3 of my dill, 2 little parsleys that are looking pretty good, and then these are all peppers. These are Grand Bell Mix. So I had a lady ask for peppers, and I started some. I have a handful of tomatoes. These are Matt's Wild Cherries, as I've told you before, and a few cucumber plants in the back. There's 4 there. And I'll take all of that. Most people, we're getting to the stage of the summer where most people already have their plants. So I'd say if I don't sell anything I don't sell before the wedding, I'm just going to put in the ground here. And I tried this year not to have so much stuff that I could not find a home for it here in good soil. I don't want to go sticking tomato plants all over the farm in bad soil, in undeveloped beds. This is all dill, 3 more parsley, 1 lonely tomato that I forgot about, a few peppers, and then these are forsythia. And I do believe that they're going to work. This one's got a little new growth here. They didn't really have roots, they just had little buds coming off on little white buds, and I thought, well, that probably means it's time to put them. They'd been in the water for a long time. So these are the ones that I had in my studio on my sewing machine table that I showed you before. And look how well they're doing. The little rose bush did not do so well. It never sent out any roots, so I kind of threw it out. These are onion blooms that I am drying out here. This is a piece of Tupperware. If you lift the lid, you see it is a roll of toilet paper. That's because we are old people. Well, we're in our 50s. We're in our early 50s, but not for long. And it's a long way to run from you. You're out here, you've been out here for 2 years, you've been out here for 2 hours, and then you need to go to the restroom, and the house is way over there. And if I were a young woman, that would not be an issue, but I'm not a young woman. And so 2 or 3 years ago, Adam bought this. Now, he has moved things around, but this is called a lugable loo. I know I've posted on my blog about it, but this is a portable toilet. It is basically a bucket with a seat, and it has composted leaves and stuff, which of course we have a huge pile of right down there. And so if you're here and you are desperate to go to the bathroom, and you just don't know if you'll make it to the house, or don't want to be running to the house, or if you go to the house you're likely to find that some girl is in the shower, then we've put this lugable loo here because on this side is the greenhouse, so nobody can see you from the road. Behind you is this whole structure, so nobody can see you from the neighbor's house, even though he's never there. And that's just a farm field way out there, but I usually keep this here. So when you sit there, the only way anybody can see you, I guess, is the dogs at the barn, or somebody's walking from the house, but most of the time that's just me and Adam. So this is, I'm embarrassed to say, our secondary bathroom. Oh, but I was going to show you, these are cilantro. This is from my own seed that I kept. They were looking really pitiful. The leaves were looking like this in the greenhouse, and I felt like they were just unhappy. And I know cilantro loves to be in the sun, and sure enough, since I brought them out here, you can see that the new growth is better. So even that one has a little bit of something fun going on. So I try to get better and better at reading my plants. Well, I hope you found that to be interesting at some level. I'll be doing another video later in the summer, certainly after the wedding, and we can see how tall the tomatoes are, how well the trellising is going, whether the sunflower